Good morning. Can we get seated so we can get started in just a moment? Thank you. Rod, you're going to have to speak loud into the microphone.
I'll do it.
He's never done it. Joe and Daryl, you guys will have to speak loud into the microphone. Wherever you are.
Hey there, how you doing? All right, how are you? Good, Rod Jeff.
Ron Jeff.
Rod.
Ron Jeff.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Nice to meet you.
My pleasure. Thanks for being here. Me too. Me too. One day.
Yes.
Okay. Probably do it. Mike.
Yeah.
Ask them if they can come forward. For the state.
I wasn't sure.
We're persistent.
And it's changed.
Yes. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, there you go.
Figures you want to know.
Both of us have failed. We're not very good at it. Hello, good morning. Good morning. Thank you all for coming today and standing in solidarity with Lance Shockley. I am Heidi Moore, Executive Director of Missourians to Abolish the Death Penalty. We are the only statewide organization dedicated solely to ending capital punishment in Missouri. As of this morning, a global coalition has gathered over 31,000 petition signatures advocating for clemency for Lance Shockley. We extend our gratitude to our petition partners, IStandWithLance.com, Catholic Mobilizing Network, Death Penalty Action, and Amnesty International. Supporters from the UK, Canada, Ireland, Sweden, Germany, and Belgium have taken action, including 30 members of the Sweden Parliament who submitted a letter requesting clemency. So let's talk. The United States is on a path to carry out more executions in a single year than it has since 2012, when it killed 43 people. Or maybe even 2010, when it killed 48. Nationally, Missouri is ranked third in state execution rates, according to Death Penalty Information Center. In the past 5 years, Missouri has executed 12 people. Without immediate intervention, Lance Shockley will be the 102nd person executed by Missouri since 1989. This leaves 4 men eligible for future execution dates and 3 more who are not competent enough to be executed. Yes, you heard me correctly. Missouri has 3 men living under a death sentence, but they're not competent enough to be executed. So far, in 2025, the U.S. has executed 34 people in just 10 states. This month, Respect Life Month, there are a total of 8 executions scheduled, including Lance's. For every 8 people executed in the U.S., 1 other person has been exonerated from death row. Friday is World Day Against the Death Penalty, and the state of Indiana will execute the first of 6 men scheduled to be executed in 7 days by 6 states, including 2 scheduled for October 14th, Florida and Missouri. By the end of October, Florida will have executed its 15th person this year. 3 of the men being killed in October have strong innocence claims that are being ignored, not only by the courts, but also by the governors, who can single-handedly bring mercy and stop the killings. Those men are Lance Shockley here in Missouri, Robert Robertson in Texas, and Arthur Boyd in Alabama. Let's be clear. Governor Kehoe does not have to do this. As Missourians, we don't need to do this. There is too much doubt. As a native of the Show Me State, I have yet to see evidence that Lance Shockley committed this crime. Personally, I believe Lance is innocent. I have never met him. That comes from file material and visiting with people who know Lance personally. I understand many of you are not ready to say those words, but yet you are still speaking up. And why? Because there is too much doubt to let this execution move forward. Despite repeated requests, courts have refused to allow testing of multiple items from the crime scene that could confirm Shockley's innocent or implicate another suspect. Governor Kehoe has the power to stop this travesty, and I am urging him, as a former probation and parole officer at Potosi Correctional Center and a fellow Catholic with a PhD in public policy analysis, to make a decision to side with life. Lance Shockley has 2 daughters, and he is very involved in their lives, including daily phone calls and weekly prison visits. There are residents at Van Buren, Missouri, where he is from, who support him and believe he is innocent. The men at Potosi care about Lance because Lance cares about them. Watch the Lance Shockley clemency video for yourself and see the impact Lance has on the lives of others. Governor Kehoe has 3 options. He can end this now and grant clemency. He can grant a stay of execution and allow the legal team the chances to fight this out for DNA testing of the evidence. And he can appoint a board of inquiry. This is not a red or blue issue. We are grateful to have bipartisan support for legislation that would close the judicial loophole that resulted in a judge sentencing Lance to death because the jury was deadlocked during sentencing. That would not have happened in Texas, nor Oklahoma. Missouri and Indiana are the 2 states where when a jury is deadlocked, the judge can impose whichever he wants, life without parole or death. We also have bipartisan support for abolishing capital punishment in Missouri, and we thank our legislative partners from both sides of the aisle for continuing to support this issue. Last week, during the clemency hearing, Dr. Nicholas Scourge presented research indicating Missouri voters show strong bipartisan support for clemency in the Lance Shockley death penalty case. Remarkably, the survey found that even many supporters of capital punishment favor clemency in Lance's case because there is too much doubt. I am also personally aware of over 100 fellow Catholics, including priests and sisters from multiple religious orders, who mailed their own letters of support, not to mention postcards, emails, and phone calls urging the governor to show mercy, respect life, and grant Lance Shockley clemency. Thank you. We do have additional speakers, so you all don't have to sit up here and listen to me fill the space. Next up, I would like to introduce Mr. Joseph Amon, an exoneree from Missouri Death Row.
glad to be here. A lot of other reasons. But I spent 17 years on death row in Missouri. I was exonerated in 2003. Can y'all hear me? So I spent 17 years on death row in the state of Missouri, and I was exonerated in 2003. And from the day that I got out, I've always spoke out against the death penalty. You know, when I got out, there was 114 people on death row in Missouri, and I felt for every last one. It was like a family on death row. So the only thing I could do was come out here and speak out against the death penalty. You know, when I got out, 2003, they had just stopped the execution of juveniles, and then stopped the execution of people with certain IQs. And I figured within 5 years, we would be to abolish the death penalty in the state of Missouri. But for some reason, we can slow down and stop. In certain areas, we have accomplished a lot with the death penalty. I think it's only, like you said, like 6 people on death row here in Missouri. So I look like Missouri gonna do the same thing other states did, run out of people to execute. So find which way they can abolish the death penalty. You know, I don't understand why they continue wants to execute people. And we have things that we can keep a person locked up for the rest of his life, and he would not be a posing threat to no other human being. And it's cheaper like that. So I don't understand why we want to keep execution. All of we know for a fact that in some instances persons have been executed. And like I said, I spent 17 years on death row. I went 4 years without any appeals. Twice I still decided to death watch. You know, and here I am standing here talking to y'all because I was actually innocent. But I could have been executed. Out of 114 people that I was on death row with, I know 7 of them who did not get executed because they was actually innocent and they went on to go be free or got their sentences commuted. So 7 people out of 114, that's a lot of innocent people being executed. You know, I don't know how many what the number is now, but it's a lot. You know, there are just so many exonerations here in the United States now. We have come to become a class of people. We might have some say so on the next vote. There's so many of us. I mean, no matter where you look at, every day you open up a computer, you're gonna find somebody somewhere who's been exonerated. Maybe not off death row, but they've been exonerated. You know, and one of the things I want to point out is, I think here in Missouri that we need to do is let the government and our politicians know that we're not behind it of executing people. It's proved that killing people is wrong. I think the politicians believe that people in Missouri are still behind executions. I don't think the people in Missouri still want to see people being executed. I just don't believe it. And I was told that Governor Kehoe is pro-life. You know, and I can't help but to wonder which life. What end of the spectrum is he at? I know he's a politician, they straddle the fence, but this is something really serious. You say you're pro-life. Well, then we know he will get executed on your watch. He's pro-life. So I think that's something we need to let him know that we want you to be a man of your word, be pro-life. And I think I want to say this here. You know, the court system seeks justice, you know, for the victims. And I'm one of the type of people that wants to seek justice for the person who's been convicted. They have the same rights. We want them to have the same justice that the victims want. We ain't asking nothing extra. We just asking for the same justice that the state wants to give the victims. We want them to have justice. Why do you have to be afraid to do a DNA test because you think it might come back in this favor? Would you rather do that than execute an innocent person? You know, I mean, what is 30 days to delay an execution? 30 days. You can wait 30 days. I just feel that we need to get out there and really let it be known to our politicians that I don't want you to execute nobody. I think execution is wrong, especially when you got a place to put them at for the rest of their life. You know, they have to worry about executing an innocent person. I'm trying to really see, I'm trying to think of something else to say, you know. Well, I'm gonna just say this here once again about Governor Kehoe. He's the governor, so his word is law. So he has the last say so, you know. It's time him to step up and be what he say he's about. Just that simple. Just thinking that was his son sitting on death. See how you feel about it. I think my time is up.
Thank you, Joe. As always, well-spoken and to the point. Next, I would like to introduce Jeff Stack, Mid-Missouri Fellowship of Reconciliation.
Thank you, Heidi. It's good to be with you all today on such a sober occasion. Now, hopefully it can be a joyful occasion in the next few days. Governor Kehoe, as Joe said, does have the opportunity to do it right, to make things right in our state more so. I was honored to be able to be at the Cole County Jail, gosh, these many years ago, 20 years ago, when Joe was finally set free, when the state did make it right, fine, started to, but there's been inadequate compensation. Our state refuses to take responsibility for the wrongs we do to our folks who are wrongly convicted. We expect that kind of responsibility shown by crime victims, to crime victims rather, by people who perpetrate crimes, and we, the state, is showing some hypocrisy, way too much so. I think people have this idea in our society that individuals who commit these crimes, who are convicted of murder, that they all say they're innocent. Well, it doesn't happen very often. Most folks accept what they've done. It's not something that people make a story about, saying that, no, I'm innocent. Lance Shockley, I do believe, is innocent, wrongly convicted. And we stand to make more and more errors by not acknowledging that. A friend of ours, Sean O'Brien, used to say, so many other states have accepted mistakes that they've made. And when individuals have been found to have been wrongly convicted, gone ahead and set them free. Other states, there have been a couple dozen people exonerated who were living under death sentence. Missouri, there have been just 4 people who were exonerated formally in our state after being convicted and sentenced to death. Sean used to say that in Missouri, we bury our mistakes. That does seem to be the sad reality, because there have been about at least 6 or 7 people with very strong cases of being wrongly convicted, yet were executed nonetheless, including a couple people during Governor Parsons' time, talking about Walter Barton, Raheem Taylor, and Marcellus Williams, Khalifa Williams, all folks who went to their death saying that they were innocent. They had credible claims of being wrongly convicted. It's time that Missouri takes, well, for our group, FOR, we believe that every execution is wrong. We should not be meddling with lives in this way and assuming the role of God. Regardless of whether individual is guilty or not, from our perspective, I think I made, and other folks here maybe too, it's wrong to kill, to show that killing is wrong. It's a pretty simple way of looking at things. If folks are in prison for the rest of their lives, there's at least a chance that they can be found to be wrongly convicted and then ultimately set free. You can't restore the time that was taken from folks like Joe, and we'll hear from another friend in just a short little while about what he went through. You can't restore that lost time. We can at least give them the freedom that they have coming and restitution for the wrongs that we in society did to them. I want to also acknowledge, we need to keep in mind crime victims without a doubt. There's no doubt that Sergeant Carl Dwayne Graham was killed down in southern Missouri. And the reality we must remember, think about it, his son, his 4-year-old son back then, was raised without a father. As I mentioned before, Heidi talked about the daughters of Lance, who they've been traumatized for decades with the reality the state says, one day we will kill your father. And that day is coming up maybe a week from now. Despite his steady claims since his offense occurred, that he's not guilty. There has been an inadequate amount of investigation done of other leads, of people who had motive as well, and they were just not followed up with. And so the thing about it, besides the harm it does to the families, wrongful convictions, it also harms our society, because if it wasn't Lance, which I don't believe it was, who killed Officer Graham, then the person who perpetrated that crime remains at large, committing other crimes past, causing other victims to lose loved ones, or to have other suffering occur in our society. So there's all kinds of reasons why we need to follow through. I will mention too, just share, if people are going to be in mid-Missouri, there are going to be a couple events coming up. One event tonight at the MU Law School. Folks are welcome to come to it. It'll be at a program that's taking place at 6:30 called Execution Without Evidence, the troubling case of Lance Shockley. And Jeremy Weiss, Lance's attorney, will be present there, along with Alyssa O'Brien, mitigation specialist, and speaking as well. So that's going to be in room 112. I encourage folks to join us for that. And also in Missouri, anyone else can join us for this that matter as well. But we're going to be having a walk from Columbia to Jeff City to visit with the governor, or at least his staff, a walk to emphasize our desire to have the judge or the governor do the right thing and halt the execution, use his power, as I said before. Show you're pro-life, show that indeed life is sacred. Recognize that, and recognize that Lance Shockley is a precious being, just as all of us are. He has a right to life, and we also believe, because he's innocent, that we want to try to continue to have confidence in our system of justice. We need to get it right, and we need to spare his life. Thank you very much.
As I introduce our next speaker, I want to follow up on the walk Jeff talked about. Death Penalty Action will also be bringing Journey of Hope, is sponsoring survivor and murder victim family member Suzanne Bosler, who will be participating in the walk with Jeff and us on this co-sponsored event. So as he was talking about victims in the walk, I thought it was important to let you all know that there will be a survivor and a murder victim family member coming to Missouri next week for this. Next up, it is my great pleasure to introduce Mr. Darrell Burke. He is co-founder. Darrell is co-founder and an exoneree of Miracle of Innocence. Darrell. Reverend Darrell.
Death penalty as an innocent man. We served time together, me, Joe, and my brother, right here in Jefferson City. We did a lot of time in this city, and for crimes we didn't commit. And in fact, Sean O'Brien was coming on a youth tour, and I was a youth tour guide for young people. And Sean O'Brien needed information to prove that Joe was innocent, and he came to the youth tour that I was a leader of, and that's how he was able to get information to help prove that Joe was innocent. Now, there are about 3,700 people who've been exonerated in the United States of America. 10% of those individuals were exonerated from death row. Now, if you do the math, that's about 370 people. Am I right? Is that my math keeping up with me? That's a lot of people. Now, I'm going to just take you back, and I won't stay long, because there's a gentleman who 2,000 plus years ago, who was also executed as an innocent man. And I don't, I'm a former preacher, but I just have to mention this guy named Jesus because I didn't believe in him for many years. But when I found out that this guy was innocent and they still killed him, it's something that he said in this book, we know as the Bible. One verse, Luke 23:34, when he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And this is what I say about, for the victims who lost their loved ones and for those who've been charged with these offenses, where is the redeeming value that we hold and we have for human beings? We're human beings. We're all a part of this family called this human family. If it was my son, my daughter, your son, your daughter, you would move heaven and earth to spare their life, and you should. And that goes for the governor, that goes for presidents, that goes for anybody who's part of, this human family. Do all you can to not only spare life, but to save life, because life is sanctified. It comes from God. It don't necessarily come from us, and for us to make those decisions about who should die or be executed. I leave you with this. Now, I'm what you call a Protestant preacher. But there's a pope by the name of Leo. I get it wrong sometimes with these Roman numerals. 13 or 14. I'm Leo the 14th. Some Catholics in there help me. Leo the 14th, and I'm going to paraphrase as I leave you. He said something that was really profound to me. He said, do we believe as human beings, as Christians, as Catholics, do we believe in pro-life? Are we pro-life? Am I pro-life? Am I pro-life in this situation, but not pro-life in this other situation? When and where do I determine if I should respect the life of some human being? How do I make that decision about when I should be pro-life and when I should say, well, this life has no value like this life has value? All life has value because all life comes from God. To God be the glory. Thank you.
Glad I don't have to follow that. Thank you, Daryl. I am so glad that Miracle of Innocence was able to join us today. Next up, we have David Billing. He is a Deacon David Billing from the Archdiocese of St. Louis.
Thank you, Heidi, and thank each of you for being here. And it is tough to follow Daryl, but we're both DBs, so
That's right.
all human life is sacred. We are God's creation, His beloved children. God the Father loves us so very much. Think about how new parents love their new child, their new baby, even though the baby has done nothing to deserve that love. In the same way, only magnified by infinity, God loves us because He created us, not because we did anything to be worthy of His love. And conversely, there's nothing, absolutely nothing that we can do to lose God's love. And as His creation, God's love for us gives us an inherent dignity that deserves respect, a dignity that we cannot lose. As a Catholic, as a Christian, as a beloved child of God, I love God and I am to love God's creation. We are to respect the God-given dignity of each and every person, from conception to natural death. As was mentioned, October is Respect Life Month. It would be certainly timely and fitting to ask the governor to respect the God-given dignity and right to life of our brother Lance Shockley. And we can look to guidance on the death penalty from our Holy Fathers. Pope John Paul II called for an end to the death penalty, which he said was both cruel and unnecessary. And on a visit to St. Louis in 1999, the Pope appealed to Governor Mel Carnahan to commute the death sentence of Daryl Meese, who was scheduled for execution. The governor spared Mr. Leese's life. Pope Benedict XVI called on world leaders, I quote, to make every effort to eliminate the death penalty and reform the penal system in a way that ensures respect for prisoners' human dignity. Pope Francis wrote, death penalty, regardless of means of execution, entails cruel, inhumane, and degrading treatment. He amended the Catechism of the Catholic Church to say that the death penalty is inadmissible because it is an attack on the dignity of the person. And as Darrell mentioned, just last week, Pope Leo said, and I quote, someone who says that I am against abortion but says I am in favor of the death penalty is not really pro-life. Lastly, nothing can be gained by killing Lance Shockley, but so much will be lost. Lance is a loving father to his daughters. He's a faith leader in his home in Potosi, and he serves as a mentor and mediator for his brother inmates. In this day and age, death penalty makes me wonder, why do we kill people who kill people to show that it's wrong to kill? And I'd like to close with a prayer. Good gracious God, Father of us all, we ask these things. Peace and consolation for the family of Sergeant Graham, to turn the heart of Governor Mike Kehoe towards mercy. And we ask for great courage, to grant courage for Lance, reminding that he's a beloved son of God the Father, and for determination and hope for the death penalty volunteers and advocates. We ask all these things in your name, Father, Son, Spirit. Thank you.
Thank you, Deacon David. Last but certainly not least, we have Nimrod Chapel Jr., the president of Missouri's NAACP.
While at some points it's comforting to see people who you've worked so closely with in the struggle, at the same time, it's a great pain. It's a great pain to be with each of you today, recognizing why we're here. We're not here for celebration or jubilation or in some recognition that justice has been served, even if we don't like the punishment that's set out. We're here today because we recognize the sanctity of human life, that it cannot be taken, cannot be squashed, and should not under any circumstance. We're here today asking for mercy, for justice to be allowed to take its course, for time, so that we don't commit a grave mistake, one that can't be undone. Years ago, I had the misfortune to attend the funeral of one of my own uncles. And I say that only because I recognize that among the faces of people who loved him closely, they recognized that he would never be back. That things that they had enjoyed during their lives would never be the same. For us, Lance Shockley is a part of that same family, that human family. And although we may not know him individually, his loss will bear its weight upon each of us and upon our society. Those of us who believe, are people of faith, have an opportunity. We can ask that the Lord, or in our own faith, that the religious leaders intercede in some way, asking that this life be saved, and we should. Those of us who believe morally that what's happening here is wrong have an opportunity to ask our friends, our community members, our families to reach out, to do something about this atrocity that we want to stop. Each of us, all of us, have a responsibility to change the way that this society is dealing with each other. And we can. We're looking at living proof of men once committed to death row, now contributing to society, to the loving family that we call humanity. And while we wonder what questions there are in Lance Shockley's life that have not been answered, our state saying of "show me" still rings true. There should be no questions in the state process and due process when we get to this stage. We can't have that. And we can't continue to go along with what other people tell us is good enough for you. And that's where we are. We are the singing, happy people of this society who just want to go to work, pray to our gods, and take care of our families. That's all we want. And still, each of us worry that each day in new ways we're getting plucked from humanity. Here, Lance Shockley proposed to be taken by an awful execution. We watch daily on the streets, whether it's St. Louis, Chicago, Kansas City, Portland, brothers and sisters being whisked away with no due process at all. Not executed, but excommunicated from the society that they've contributed to. We can no more stand by and allow Lance's life to be taken than we can to watch these individuals be taken away. Now is our opportunity. If we are to make a change, we have to stand, and not just stand here in this room together. We have to act together. We have to join together the forces of humanity, call upon our brothers and sisters in faith, bring forward our moral character that we cherish so deeply, and provide the legacy to our families and to this state that it deserves. At a bare minimum, we've seen other governors, when there were questions about justice, institute a board of inquiry to move forward with the work of justice when the justice system has been imperfect. We should have that here. That would allow Lance to live another day to determine what the truth is, so that we can determine what that evidence says and make sure that it is true. Examine it for ourselves, even as we wrestle with this moral question of, will there be an execution? Save it for another day. Do not do not commit this atrocious harm of execution. We are better than that, can do better than that, and must be better. Thank you.
Actually, we have one more speaker joining us today. Matt Surdike is from the St. Louis area. He's met Lance inside prison. And he didn't know what he was coming to today, but he felt compelled to drive up here from the St. Louis area and to see what was happening. And he wants to say a few words about Lance and know Lance personally. Matt?
Thank you. And yeah, like you said, I wasn't sure what I was driving from Festus to come into today. I just knew that there was something having to do with Lance's case, and I felt compelled to come and at least witness it, be a part of it. I met Lance a couple of years ago. I've been serving in the Kairos prison ministry down in Potosi for about a little over 2 years now. And I remember the first time I saw him, he wasn't on the particular retreat that I was on, but he was walking down the hallway and he just had this glow about. I thought there's something different about that guy. And some of the other men who had served on the retreat previously, you know, I could tell they knew him because they were saying, "Hey, Lance, how you doing?" That kind of stuff. Subsequent retreats, I actually got to work with them, to get to know him, to talk with him just a little bit because he was always busy helping everybody else. Sorry, he was always busy helping the other guys. He was just this light in this prison that is full of darkness. when we go in on the prison ministry in Kairos in particular, we intentionally, we choose not to know why someone is in there. I didn't realize he was on death row actually until last day, right before I had gone in. And on that particular retreat, I could tell that there was something going on. I wasn't sure what it was. And after the fact, I found out that I guess Lance had just realized that he had exhausted his last formal appeal. And one of the examples from that particular retreat of Lance's impact, there was a gentleman who was on the retreat for the first time, um, came in just in a really dark place, and at the end of the retreat, the residents, they're allowed to kind of say where they were before the retreat, what they found, and where they are going forward. This guy got up in front of about 75 other residents in Potosi and shared that he was on the yard one day, and Lance came up and started talking to him. He didn't really know Lance, but he just started talking to him and trying to help bring him up and get him in a better place, and encouraged him to eventually come on this retreat. And he's like, I had no idea what Lance was going through personally at the time until after the fact, but Lance, in the middle of his court stuff falling apart, was still Christian enough and realized the dignity of human life enough to reach out to a guy that he saw on the yard in Potosi that was suffering. And again, I've heard a lot of people talk today about the case, and I'm intentionally ignorant of the case. I don't really want to know the details of the case, because to me, the case matters for sure, but what matters more is that Lance is being a light in that prison, and he's doing God's work, Christ's work in that prison. Deacon Dave mentioned Pope St. John Paul II, and the way he talked about the death penalty was that it should not be used unless it is the only possible way to defend society from aggression. That was in his 1995 encyclical Evangelium Vitae. Well, there's a lot of better ways to protect society from someone as good as Lance. And the death penalty is definitely not necessary in this case. We have jail systems that can hold prisoners that are guilty, and that can protect society. That's the reason the death penalty was never used, going back to early church days, all through history. It was because there was no way to protect society from the aggressor. We have that way now. We have prison systems that can. So, for one, as a Catholic, there is no real reason to have the death penalty anymore, as Pope Francis also stated, and Pope Leo and many popes passed. But again, I just would like to appeal to Governor Kehoe, the humanity side of things, and what good is actually served by executing a man like Lance, who is in that prison, making life better for the other residents of the prison, making life better for the employees of you and your state prison guards, because he is making the Potosi prison, or wherever prison he happens to be held, he is making it a better place, a safer place, and more God.
All right, once again, thank you all for caring enough to show up. Thank you for those that are watching. We are now going to transition into the petition portion. So up front here on the table, just below me, I'm so short I can't see, are signed postcards as well as petitions. Sharon and Connor will give a few pages to each of us that want to participate. We hope everyone participates. We will follow Rod up the stairwell, and we will silently deliver petitions into the governor's office. Now, for anyone that's concerned, we email the petitions officially. We make sure that everything's in order. But for now, we are going to deliver these petitions. And thank you for the St. Louis University students who have showed up here today with us as well. Thanks to all our speakers, and let's just hope that Governor Kehoe actually chooses life and puts his pro-life beliefs out front, because that is what he ran on. Thank you.
Just warning them.
Yes.
Everyone.